Hi, Kelly, the Texas land agent here. I wanted to come and talk to you a little bit today about exactly whose side I am when I sell real estate. So, when you think about buying or selling your property or the property that you want to buy, do you really know the role of the real estate agents that are involved? And as a land specialist over the last few years, I've met literally hundreds of people every year. And it seems like the more that I meet, the more that I realize that the vast majority don't exactly know how best to leverage the professional in that transaction to make sure that they get the best deal in their best interest. So in fact, I see quite a bit of them that don't trust the agent that they're talking to and would rather deal directly with the owner, which when you really understand the role of the players in the transaction, it's actually a little bit counterproductive. So if you're a buyer looking to buy a piece of property and the agent of that property is the one you end up talking to, what does that mean to you in that transaction? If you're selling your property and you have an agent reach out that has a buyer that's trying to buy the property from you, what does that mean to you that they've got an agent on their side? Okay, first and foremost, let's talk about the role of the agent. A real estate agent has a state license to represent their client in a real estate transaction. That much I think most people get, at least conceptually. That's what their agent is supposed to be doing, right? But what that means is that the agent has a legal fiduciary duty to get you and only you the best deal they possibly can. So the agent does this in a variety of ways by negotiating on your behalf and keeping confidential information private. If they fail to put your best interest at first, at every turn possible, they can face a loss of their license, an end to their career, fines, and possibly jail time. So they have a serious responsibility that requires a serious commitment by a serious professional. Now, in that first example, if you're a buyer looking for land without an agent, what does it mean when you encounter an agent that has listed the property? It means, quite simply, that the agent has a legal responsibility to make sure that the seller sells the property at the highest possible price with the best possible terms for the seller. Now, the agent can't lie, cheat, or steal. So if you ask a question, they have to answer truthfully. But what we call that is the way they explain it is more like arms around versus arm's length. So if I'm your agent, I've got my arms around you. I'm protecting you from all the bad guys that are coming out here to steal your money and take all your extra income. But if I'm arm's length, that means I've got my arms around somebody else and you're actually at arm's length. So that doesn't mean that I'm going to lie, cheat, or steal to you, but it does mean something different, right? But lies by omission are not necessarily considered lies, and it's a bit of a gray area. So by leaving certain things out of a transaction, someone can actually be putting you at risk as the buyer and the seller in those situations. So you want to make sure, like I did a video on utilities connected versus utilities available. And that's a good example of a non-specific terminology that if you don't have an agent on your side, you may not understand what they're saying, what they mean by what they're saying. So you could be slightly misled. So it's in a sense, kind of like bringing a ballpoint pen to a knife fight, right? All right. So in my second example, you're selling your property and you have an agent reach out about helping his or her buyers purchase your property. What does that situation mean to you? As an unrepresented seller, you face a few disadvantages. One, you have to basically guess what price to list your property at. You don't have access to all the sales data to know what value the property's lender will put on your property, which ultimately will lead to potentially a sale or not a sale. And if it doesn't appraise, the offer is going to fall through, right? But you're negotiating against an agent that has access to all of that sales data. And if they're any good, which not all of them are, they're going to use that against you to lower your list price to get a lower price because fiduciarily, that's their job for their buyer. And if you don't know for a fact that they're misleading you or that the value is there, how do you know how to argue with it, right? So you're also working on an 11-page promulgated contract that you aren't an expert at navigating. So you check the wrong box, you could pay a few grand more for closing costs. Or worse, you leave yourself open to huge liability for something the original owner didn't even disclose to you. But of course, you could hire an attorney by the hour, of course, to go line by line with it and explain it to you. And that way it gives you at least enough protection that you have some idea what's going on. But when there are disputes or questions about the survey, inspection report, title commitment, you need an expert to explain what they mean and who actually should be paying for them. So otherwise, you run the very real risk of paying for things you didn't have to and shouldn't agree to. So the buyer's agent can and has a legal fiduciary responsibility to bleed as much money and value from you as they possibly can on behalf of their buyer. Real estate agents have about the same amount of duty to you as an attorney does, even saying things like, well, the deals have fallen through because we've taken 3 offers, but the inspection report has shown things that the seller is not willing to pay for. My buyers are qualified for $50,000 more than asking. They're just trying to get a better deal so they can flip it. The seller's having trouble making the payment, so he'd really like to sell this quickly. All of these are potential breaches of the agency relationship an agent has to his or her clients. Sometimes it's intentional, most times it's accidental, but 100% of the time it's illegal. So I always recommend you hire a professional if you want a job done professionally. Take your time and find an agent that can advocate for you at every twist and all of the turns in your transaction. There are tons of agents to choose from, but if I can help in any way, please reach out and let's discuss how I can fight for you in your next real estate deal.